Hey folks, two things really quick before we get into the episode. One, yes, we've been away for a very long time. That was due to some health issues on my part. But after a few surgeries, lots of meds, and rest, I got a chest cold. But now I'm finally back up to speed and ready to produce more podcasts. Thanks so much to everyone who stuck with us during our dry spell. And a big thank you to executive producer Kat Davis for all she had to deal with. I'll spare you the gruesome details. And two, this episode with the lovely and talented Bonnie Gordon was recorded on July 10th of 2024. Thanks so much to Bonnie for coming back on the show and her patience with me, not only in releasing this episode, but for forgiving me for, well, it's in the episode. I won't spoil it here. So, without further ado, cue the intro!
Incoming transmission.
The Klingoni's word of the day is...
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
So, this is a huge victory for the good guys.
Scotty, beam me up.
Resistance is futile. Live long and prosper.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings and welcome to Season 8 of the Computer Resume podcast, a show covering the entire Star Trek franchise in chronological order for fans new and old. I'm your host, writer-comedian, Mr. Todd A. Davis. Actor, singer, songwriter, voiceover artist, self-described as Trek's OG quirky curvy redhead from Star Trek Prodigy, it's Bonnie Gordon. Yay!
Woohoo!
Hello, hello.
Good morning or afternoon. Who knows?
Yeah, let's see. Afternoon here, morning for you.
Yep.
How have
Good
things?
times.
Yeah, how have things been for you?
Amazing. Things have been great. Just
Yeah.
busy.
I was gonna say, I eavesdropped a little bit on a discussion you were having while I was in line to shake your hand at Trek Long Island earlier back this summer, and somebody asked, well, where are you going next? And you pulled out this very extensive list
Yes.
of your schedule.
Yes.
You stay busy. Like, how do you?
I will.
It's an extensive list.
I will sleep next year, I think. I have some days off scheduled for 2025, and I'm really looking forward to them.
Oh,
No,
I bet.
obviously, depending on when this airs, some of these will already have happened, but I'm in Pittsburgh next as a music guest of honor, and then of course Star Trek Las Vegas, and then Creation has a bunch of regional conventions that they're doing in the fall. So Trek to Chicago, Trek to Nashville, Trek to Jersey, Trek to Dallas, and then some other ones scattered in between, as well as other gigs, and juggling my 3 actual jobs here in LA. So I'm, if I start going cross-eyed in this interview, please forgive me.
It's okay. It's perfectly understandable. It's let's talk about Prodigy here. Season 2 is out and it's amazing.
Thank you. Yes.
It should come with a warning though. Like about episode 5 or episode 6, you're going to want to binge the entire thing. If you're trying if you're trying to pace yourself, good luck.
Season 1 was so fantastic, and when Paramount pulled the plug and canceled season 2, we were all very upset, everyone who had worked on it, because we knew season 2 was better than season 1, and also it ties to all the other series as well in some way. So we're like, are you kidding us right now? So I know some people have problems with them and whatnot, but kudos to Netflix for really stepping up and taking Prodigy under its wing and giving us a second shot and letting the fans see the work that we've put into this. I mean, I say we, but really it's the Hagemans, Aaron Wolke, the writer's room, they were the ones who just knocked it out of the park. I was just there along for the ride going, wee! So, I play like 4 or 5 different characters throughout the series. And,
Yeah,
obviously the ship computer is what everyone
of course.
remembers me about as. But yeah, it's very, very exciting to see so many people get the buzz around it. I mean, the reviews are coming in and they're saying it's one of the best Star Trek seasons of all time, of all Trek, which is a huge compliment.
Yeah.
So I'm just so excited to see if Netflix decides to give us the green light for a season 3.
Oh yeah, especially go on the internet and you will find multiple sides to any argument
Yeah.
very quickly. But personally, I looked at Prodigy getting picked up by Netflix as a very, very good thing in terms of like. I mean, I go back to stand-up comedy, and they, when with stand-up, it was just kind of like, hey, let the artists do their thing,
Mhm.
and here's your platform. And so
Well, what
Star
people
Trek, like, yeah,
what people don't even realize was season 2 was pretty much done when Netflix, but like,
exactly.
Netflix didn't have to do anything. Like, it was done. We were,
Yeah.
it was in like way post production. There was only like a few little like, you know, extra frills to add to it towards the end. But
Right.
other than that, I mean, the season was pretty much completed
Yeah.
and everything was recorded. Post production was almost done. So when it got canceled, we were kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Why? You
Yeah.
know?
It's I recall because I was sitting at a restaurant in Riverside, Iowa, where you just were not too long ago.
Yeah,
When I
that
saw
was
the
fun.
news and of course was brokenhearted, but I was like, oh, something this I'm hopeful something's going to happen. And it has. And now we've gotten season 2 and fingers crossed, knocking on wood and
Well,
for season 3.
it was the fans who made it
Yes.
happen.
Yeah.
Um, Honestly, the fact that the fans caused a riot and, you know, I mean, they were the ones who got Netflix's attention,
Yep.
mostly by flying a plane over Netflix with a
Yeah.
banner saying hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy. I was like, we have the best fans in the world. They got a plane. Like, are you kidding me? Like, as I'm watching the plane fly above, I was like, this is wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a wonderful, wonderful thing to have happen. Yeah, so kudos to the fans. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Before we
Thank
get
you.
too far away from it, you mentioned that you're not only the ship's computer, but you've got a couple of other voices that you do on Prodigy.
Yeah.
One of which is the whale, the cetacean ops.
Gillian. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Can you talk?
technically, if you really get specific, technically Gillian's the whale's voice is the computer because Gillian
That's true.
speaks in whale song and the universal translator translates via the computer.
Uh-huh.
However, one of my favorite things about recording season 2 was when we were recording that episode in particular, I was just recording it normal, like hello, how are you, as a computer.
Sure,
And I
sure.
went, and we're like, anything for you, Rock Talk, and I was just like, this is, if the alien speaks in whale song with a melody, wouldn't the translator kind of implement that into the
Yeah.
translation? So I don't think that's ever been done before. And I guess now it's canon that the universal translator will translate with a melody. So if you hear like the whale song, like, ooh, you hear like,
Yeah.
hello, how are you? And it has like a slight melody. I know, in one of the scenes, Gillian is giving out letters, that
Mhm.
spell out a message, but it was just me going like FMINEMD, like, but I did it as
Right.
like a melody. And
Oh,
I just loved that the Hagemans let me kind of explore that and play in the booth. Because as the computer, I don't get much time to play or improv like the rest of the cast gets to
yeah.
do. So I was like, I
Yeah.
have an idea. Can I try it? And they loved it. So I'm very grateful that they let me get creative and kind of put my own creative spin on the computer. And then I
Yeah.
play I play a bridge officer throughout the whole
Hmm.
series. She's
Hmm.
Orion.
Nice.
She's also in the very beginning of the show, getting information and a message to Murph when they're at Starfleet Academy. And then
Right.
I also play the pregnant Boolean
Oh
mother
yeah.
in the sick
Oh,
bay. It's only a couple lines, but she's scattered throughout as well. So it's really fun for me to whenever they bring me in, they'll just throw a couple characters my way. Season 1, one of my favorite characters was the Bernari ensign that broke Janeway out of the brig.
Yes.
So who knows what happened to that character? She's probably court-martialed somewhere. So,
Oh no.
yeah, I'm like, oh no.
I wanted to ask you a couple of other. We will get back to Star Trek Prodigy in just a second,
Sure.
but I'm currently editing my interview with Todd Stashwick,
Mm.
and one of the things I asked him about was his appearance on Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill.
It's such a
And
fun show.
I would watch you and Jason Charles Miller do anything together. You guys are so much fun. Can you give me and us a little brief overview of your experience? Like they
Sure.
contact you and building your character, and then what it's like to actually sit there at the table?
Absolutely. Well, they were testing it out. Matthew Lillard and his company they were testing out the Faster Purple Worm Kill Kill live at a bar called Guildhall in
Yes.
LA the fall prior to where they would do live shows of it and I was asked to come in. It was like the second to last episode. I came in, Xander and I, my old band partner, Xander Jean-Ray.
Yeah.
He and I got called in to play, and Todd was the GM. And I didn't know a lot about it going in. I just knew they wanted like people who played D&D, who were funny, who could, die quickly. I don't know.
Right.
Gonna be the whole premise is all the characters are gonna die.
Of course.
So I thought it was so funny. And I loved it. And I was like, whenever you guys, put this on camera, please, please, please remember me. And one of the reasons why they asked me to come test the live show at Guildhall was they were trying to see out of the talent pool that they had who they would call in to do a live episode. So I was so grateful when they said, "Oh, we want you for an episode." And when I looked on the call sheet and saw Jason Charles Miller on it, I went, I already know. Like usually I love playing bards, and I was going to be like, you know what? I always play bard. I'm going to play something different. And then when I saw Jason on the call sheet, I went, oh, no, never mind. And he's a dear friend of mine. So I gave him a call and I was like, you don't get to create your own character anymore. We're going to be brother and sister. We're both going to be bards. And I'm writing a song for us. And he goes, okay. And I was like, it's going to be Piper and Pepper. And he came up with the last name, Pricklefoot. Oh. I was like, Piper and Pepper. And we're going to be bard twins. And I'm going to write a song for us. And so I sent him the song and he went, oh, dear Lord. And then, of course, when we get in there, they're like, oh, by the way, you're no longer halflings. You're all goblins. Or you're no longer what you were going to be. You're all goblins. And I was like, that still works. We're still short. The song still tracks. Yes. And, but Jason and I, and then a lot of the other stuff that we came up with was on the fly, like the battle moves and all that. Like, I love creating weird, like alliteration, spells or fight moves or anything like that coincides with my characters. So I was writing them all down on my character sheet as we were playing. Pepper grinder, the
pepper grinder. That's so great. Oh, so again, for folks who are not familiar with actual play shows, episode of Purple Worm clocks in about an hour, roughly.
Yeah, 45 to an hour.
How long are you there at the table? It's definitely over an hour.
Well, not necessarily. They were pulling out like a lot of episodes a day, and they also wanted to keep it true to the timing. Like we were, I would say it wasn't that much different from what you saw. The only thing is every now and then they would need like a pickup. So at the end they'd be like, they would do something where like, can you say the name of your character again, but look this way? Like they'd want little pickups. But other than that, for the most part, it was all live. It was all quick. I would say there would maybe be a difference of like 15 minutes that might have been cut for time, like throughout. Sure. Mm-hmm. But they kept us moving really quickly. And then they timed out what the commercial breaks would be throughout. So that's I don't know. It was pretty concise. And so pretty much what you saw on the show was what we were doing.
Wow, I was way off.
There wasn't too much cut at all. I would say like
Probably just dead silence while somebody's doing math or something.
Not even that. Like we would
No?
pause
Oh, wow.
for no, we were because there wasn't much we could do. We knew we were all gonna die.
Right.
It's not like, oh, let me attack with my, +2, against a level 30 creature. It's not gonna no matter what, we're gonna die with a
Yeah.
paper cut. We all had like I think the highest hit points at the table was like 10.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jason and I had like 8 hit points.
Oh, wow. Well, so getting back into Star Trek, we see this episode of Strange New Worlds, not unlike Star Trek Prodigy. We've got our crew who have to steal the ship
Hmm.
and make some decisions on the fly. But Spock in particular, we're gonna stay spoiler free here, for folks, but Spock gets kind of put on the spot to do some stuff that he wasn't really quite prepared for. Have you been in a spot where, either voice acting or being on stage where it's just kind of like, oh, and hey, we need you to do this. And it's kind of like sink or swim. Have you been in that position before?
Way too many times. If you're going the theater route, I used to work for this theater company when I first moved to LA. It no longer
Mhm.
exists, so I don't feel too bad talking about them.
Gotcha.
But I was it was like a children's theater, and I was one of their directors that would sometimes appear on stage as well. I looked really young, so they like felt okay with like kind of blurring the line
Oh, I gotcha.
of director actor, with a bunch of the kids.
Yeah.
There was a production of The Wizard of Oz that I was just there that day helping wrangle the Munchkins backstage.
Mm.
And the Tin Man never showed up. It was like a 12-year-old boy. We called, his mother, and she was like, yeah, he has a big audition today. He won't be there. We're like, it's a show day. Are you kidding me? He's the Tin Man. And then all of a sudden, like, it was almost like in unison, the director, the producer, everyone backstage, they all slowly turn and look at me. And I'm like, where's the script? And I put on this little boy's costume. So like, it comes up to here on me, and like the little hat and this random wig I had in the trunk of my car, and played the Tin Man. I would look at the script right before scene, go out and just be like, oh no, if I only had a heart. And then it was ridiculous. Same thing happened with, there was a production of The Sound of Music, the same theater. And they asked me to play Mother Superior because they couldn't find a child who could like sing the operatic sound, the,
She's a girl.
no, climb every mountain, like that
Oh,
song.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So they were asking me to play Mother Superior, and I was like, that's totally fine. And then the boy who played Ralph, like the I am 17 going on 18, dropped out. So I ended up like taping my chest down and playing this like 17-year-old boy having a romantic dance with like a 12-year-old. And then Uncle Max drops out. So then I like put on these glasses and a mustache and a cigar. I'm like, cha cha cha, make it with style. See, like I played all these random characters, and I was like, I was not. And this is all like a week before we open that I'm, thrown in. Same thing with I did a production of Peter Pan. I was the director for it, and I wasn't going to be in it at all. And like right before dress rehearsal, the guy who plays Smee moves to Tennessee. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So guess who got to be Smee? And which I was actually secretly excited for. Smee's been one of my favorite characters. And I basically played him like Pinky from Pinky and the Brain. Like, oh, I think so, Captain. You're doing a tarantella, Captain. Yeah, and I'd be like, oh, Captain, you're so wise. And so I just played him like Pinky and the Brain.
Oh, that's
Like,
awesome.
and we even added the like Smee. Are you pondering what I'm pondering? Oh, I think so, Captain. A tarantella. Yeah. It's fun. It was a lot of fun.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's, stand-up comedy. There's been a couple, it seems like, because I come from a writer's background, so a lot of my stuff's very prepared, but every now
Yeah.
and then it's the audience you have to adjust for.
I should tell you my stand-up comedy surprise.
Yes,
Because
please.
I am not a stand-up comic. I don't do stand-up.
Mhm.
I went on a date once. It was a first date and a last date, but he was very nice. He was a very nice guy. Just, no chemistry. Also, what the hell? We go to a bar that has an open mic, like a stand-up open mic because
Okay.
he was going to do his stand-up. And I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to need a drink for this. So I get a drink at the bar. And the bartender like slides me over like this little raffle ticket to write my name on. And I like one thing you need to know about me, I love raffles. I was like, oh my gosh, a raffle. How exciting. So I write my name in and drop it in the bucket. And then, you know, the beginning of the show starts and they're shaking the bucket and they pull my name and I'm like, I won the raffle. So I get up there and they're like, okay, you have 5 minutes. We'll flash you the light at 4 and hand me the mic. So it was not a raffle. It was the sign up for the open mic. Apparently you have to buy a drink in order to sign up. I had no clue. So here I am opening the open mic, never have done stand up before. And my opening bit was, you know, I thought this was a raffle and everyone laughs. I'm like, that is not a bit. Help. And I just improvised and then did like some impressions and no one believed it was my first time, which was very kind of them.
Right.
And then I was like, wow, I don't think I ever want to do stand up again. And then fast forward to like this year, January 1st, a friend of mine was putting on a comedy night and asked if I wanted to be a part of it. And I was like, absolutely. You know, thinking when people ask me to be a part of comedy nights, it's usually with my music, to do comedy music. So
Yeah.
I had my tracks ready. I had like a couple songs picked out. I was so ready to go. And I get there and like, it's all stand up. And I'm kind of like, that's kind of interesting. And then, you know, and I didn't know when I was going. And he goes, are you, you know, he's like, he said something like, I can't wait to hear your stand up. And I was like, oh no, and I was like, well, where do I play my tracks? He goes, no, there's no way to play the tracks here. You're doing stand up, right? I'm like, and then in my mind, I'm like, you know what? This has happened to me before. I got this. Put me in, coach. It's January 1st. It's like New Year's resolution. I'm just going to get out of my comfort zone. And then I'm like, okay, well, where am I on the list? Like, where am I in the lineup? Because you're my headliner. I'm like, what? So I was headlining a comedy night, doing stand-up for the second time ever with no preparation.
This is the universe telling you, Bonnie, you need a tight 10. Like if you can.
Apparently.
Listen, we'll workshop it. We'll
my
get with
opening
Stashwick.
bit was telling the story of when I first did stand-up. And I was like, this is basically a nightmare for me, everybody. So thanks for, you know, giving me this energy into the new year of panic.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Well, congratulations on surviving.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have a career in stand-up, but you know what? But I'm good enough to fake it until someone kicks me off the stage.
We see a lot of folks in this episode of Strange New Worlds, The Broken Circle, are getting into situations they're not very comfortable with. Speaking of your experiences. But before we get too much further, let's get to this week's recap. Brought to you in part by our Patreon supporters, Rev J, Jerry Antimano, Kitty B, Ed Milner, Fleet Admiral First Class Fred Sims, and Wren, and Sir Chauncey Dalton Featherstone III, Esquire.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
While undergoing upgrades under the supervision of long-lived engineer Pelia, Enterprise receives a distress call from Lon on a dilithium mining planet. With Una arrested and Pike recruiting her defense counsel, Spock disobeys April and steals the Enterprise.
And on that note, we cue the music.
Spock and the crew find Lon, and she explains that a cabal of ex-Starfleet and Klingon soldiers are plotting to restart the recently ended Klingon Federation War. M'Benga and Chapel are captured and taken to a ship that's been cobbled together from Starfleet tech. The bad guys plan to use it to fire on a Klingon ship and frame Starfleet. M'Benga and Chapel each take a super hypo spray and fight their way off the false flagship just as Spock orders its destruction, saving the arriving Klingons.
Whoa, that was close.
Spock bonds with the Klingon captain over blood wine, impressing Pelia. April reprimands Spock, but is privately grateful that war with the Klingons was avoided, considering the impending threat of the Gorn.
Incoming transmission.
Is your house without honor? Are the walls of your home covered with paint instead of your enemy's blood? Restore your family's name with authentic weapons and wares from KlingonShop.com. KlingonShop.com has been honorably forging Klingon weapons since 2020. Real replica batleths, macleths, kurleths, the sword of Kales, and more. Whether you're decorating your domicile or completing your cosplay, KlingonShop.com has everything you need with deals so good you'll think we're Ferengi. And then I'll kill you for thinking such disgusting thoughts. Today is a good day to support KlingonShop.com, unless you're a Patak.
Okay, Mr. Rozhenko, thank you for coming in. That was great.
Of course it was! Now get me the hell out of here!
Hi, it's me, Flip Kiki, the Trek Queen of NYC, and you're listening to the Computer Resume podcast.
So, one of the things that we see, we started off this discussion about Spock and, having to do something he wasn't really familiar with or comfortable doing. But one of the things M'Benga gives him is the harp, the classic, iconic Spock's harp. You, a very accomplished musician.
Thank you.
Con artist, your album is out there as well for people to find and enjoy. Do you find music calming, or is it more of a job now?
Oh, a little bit of both. There's moments. For me, one of my favorite things in the world when I sing is connecting with an audience. I just did a convention out in San Francisco called BayCon.
Yeah.
And the theme of the convention was pure imagination. So, a lot of people know me for my Star Trek parodies and my, I do other fandoms as well. But, I've ventured into sci-fi way more than I would other fandoms right now because of, my career in Star Trek.
Of course.
So I was really excited to be able to really punch in on the fantasy imagination theme. So of course I sang like Pure Imagination in my concert. I sang Over the Rainbow. I sang the theme to The Last Unicorn. We actually had Peter Beagle, the author, or Peter Beagle, the author of The Last Unicorn, was at this convention too.
Oh, wow.
So it was just really special to be able to kind of nurture that other side of music that I love so much, like the kind of jazzy standard of music. And, yes, it is a job, but I get so much joy from it. And, a moment that stood out was I sang Over the Rainbow. And this is the first time I've sung it for like a, large audience for a while.
Yeah.
And half the audience was crying by the end of it. And, to have that kind of effect on people and to emotionally touch them, and people were coming up to me after. That song is so special to me because my mom used to sing it to me when I was a little girl. Oh. And apparently the con chair, she recently lost her mother, and that was one of her mother's favorite songs, and they played it at her funeral. So just being able to bring that memory, and she said the whole time all I could do, she's like, I could feel my mother there. Like, it was so special. And a lot of people were coming up to me throughout the weekend telling me how certain songs that I sang that are not comedy like touched them and like brought out an emotional response. So when you connect with an audience like that, there's something really special. There's a close kind of intimacy that you get.
Yeah.
That I'm very happy to have caused. I don't know if that's the right word I'm looking for, but you know what I mean? Like, I love that I was able to invoke an emotional response, because laughter is my favorite reaction. Obviously, I love making people laugh, and it's such a wonderful escape from the world that we're living in right now.
Yeah.
But to be able to cause like other types of emotions, but also in a positive way, like the last thing you want to do is say, "Oh, I made people cry." But there's times when you can cry at something, and it's like it's a release, and it's an emotional response that, like, you know what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So yes, it is a job, but I find so much joy in singing and connecting with people with music.
I'll share my, I actually have a connection to Somewhere Over the Rainbow as well. My mother
Oh,
passed away when I was 19, and she never got to come to my wedding. So when it came time for the son mother dance, I danced with my aunt, my mother's sister,
that's
and
special.
the song because they were very close, and so the song we played was Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and
That's beautiful.
yeah,
I feel like
I'm
everyone
not
has
about to
this.
start crying.
Oh,
I'm so
that's so
sorry.
special. I feel like everyone has like, for some reason, that song in particular, everyone has like some kind of happy memory with,
It's
and positive
it's
memory.
kind of a but it's like you know that there's something out there, and especially for like I mean, I'll chime in with my 2 cents. I feel like it's a little bit of there's a little bit of Luke Skywalker looking at the twin suns, kind of knowing you're supposed to be out there, and the thing that you're meant for is out there. Stuff like that is out
Yeah,
beyond the rainbow, and
absolutely.
if we can just get there, or the thing that you lost, the thing that you missed, it's okay because it's out there beyond the rainbow. I'm so sorry.
No, do not apologize.
um anyways, so
It's a special piece of music for sure.
yeah, and of
One of
course,
them.
Judy Garland, with an iconic voice. Everybody knows it from Wizard of Oz and all that stuff, and yeah, it's just a wonderful, wonderful piece. So thank you for sharing your experience and your memories. And
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing yours.
yeah. So let's get back into to Star Trek. These kids on Star Trek Prodigy,
Hmm.
they are kind of, they don't take the traditional route of like, I want to join Starfleet. And so they go join Starfleet, and then I want to be on a ship, and then they get on a ship. They're kind of doing it backwards. and
Absolutely. Yeah.
and with all the people that they encounter, there's a good amount of bluffing that they're having to do so that they can get out of there alive, and hopefully get on to the next thing. But much like the characters in this episode of Strange New Worlds, they're having to do a lot of bluffing. There's an old acting joke about the resumes and being able to ride a horse. Have you ever had to
Yeah.
sort of put your yes, absolutely, I can do that. And in the back of your head, I've never done that before in my life. I guess that stand-up comedy comes back to that a
Yeah.
little bit.
I put like stand up and comedy on my resume. And I'm like, technically I have done stand up comedy. I was a headliner.
You headlined in LA.
I headlined in LA without even knowing I was doing stand up. So I, just kind of jump in the deep end. If you're gonna, don't stick your toe in the water, just get pushed in
Exactly.
without any life jacket. Um,
Oh,
but no,
yeah.
I definitely, I wouldn't even call it bluffing. I would definitely like bend the amount of experience I've had on something. And they're like, oh, see, here's that you can do this. How much experience do you have on it? I'm just like, oh, so much. And then I would have to obviously brush up on the skill, but I would never like flat up lie. Like I'm not going to tell people that, I can scuba dive when I've never scuba dived, or
Right.
because then you get into, I've heard horror stories of people doing this
Mm,
where and then their safety becomes an issue. Like if you tell people that you do your own stunts and then they like strap you to a freaking rope and throw you off a building, you better know how to land correctly or else you're gonna break your neck. There's certain things that I would never lie about, and a lot of when it comes to like physicality and stunts and whatnot, I'm willing to learn is the thing. I'd be,
mm.
I've had some basic training. I was training to be on this like wrestling show
Oh yeah.
back in the day before COVID. So I know how to like flip and land on my back safely. I know how to like jump from like it was in a wrestling ring, so I can get to the top and I can jump and flip and like like I can do, and that's actually the most basic of stunts in
Yeah.
wrestling, and I'm actually pretty good at it. So I was like, this I can do, and then I had pigtails, so they would grab my hair, but not really. They would just pretend, and I'd grab their wrists, and and
Oh
I
yeah.
was the one guiding. There's all these tricks that they use in wrestling. So my hair was not actually, getting hurt. I wasn't actually getting my hair yanked out.
Right, right. Well, it's that some of that classic basic stage combat. I mean, you did some stuff on the guild, and I mean, have you had a lot of experience with like that basic stage combat stuff? Is that something you want to revisit?
I think you're thinking of Felicia Day for the guild, but I'll take that as a compliment. You're talking about the quest.
The quest. I'm sorry. I meant the
I was like,
quest instead
oh.
of the guild. I'm so sorry.
That's
Yeah.
okay. I've been confused with Felicia Day for many, many years, even though we look nothing alike. We're just like two nerdy redheads living in LA. So, but I will be confused with her forever. That's what people associate. If they associate me with another like badass redhead in the nerd world, I'm okay with this.
Hey, there's worse people to be compared to.
But no,
like,
the quest, we were, they would wake us up every morning. We were completely immersed in a fantasy world. So we were living in Europe in a castle, no real running water. It was an amazing experience. But I remember vividly, they would wake us up, the soldiers, or whatever, the guard would wake us up and we'd be down in the courtyard learning how to sword fight and like training on that. And there would be no cameras around. Like none of this was actually footage. They were just actually training us. And I was like, and me being like the least physically fit, I couldn't even hold a shield and a sword. I had to use both hands for my sword because I was so weak.
Oh, wow.
Because I had no upper body strength like the others. And I mean, they had ropes that we were having to do. And then they had these buckets that we'd had to put on our shoulders filled with rocks and run back and forth, like down to the gate where the moat was and back. And I was like, this is bull. No. One of the challenges was they put us in solid iron cages that weighed like 80 pounds and made us race through a gauntlet. And I was trying to get through one of the things and the cage rolled onto my thumb and like dislocated my thumb.
Oh no.
It hurt so bad. But luckily I was able to keep, going. They didn't like take me to a hospital or anything. But I couldn't bend my thumb back for like 9 months after, like, or almost like a year. Like, and it was my left hand too, which is the one I write with. And I was like, oh, I'm screwed. Luckily everything's fine now, but
good.
And then of course, in the show, they're, Sir Ansgar comes and gives me a sword and, like, Paladin Bonnie, like, can you hold this? I'm like, everything's fine. And inside I'm going, ow, ow, ow. But the last thing I wanted was to seem weak to the other paladins because I would have gotten voted off if they felt like I couldn't continue the quest. It's a whole thing. It was like a competition reality show in a fantasy world. So I was like, no, I cannot. I have to stay strong and save the realm. I want to be the one true hero. But anyway, so I got some basic training in that. They put us on horseback. We were like shooting arrows off of the back of a horse. I mean, it was crazy stuff. Wow. But we never got any real actual like training. They just kind of threw it. That's why like half of us, like for me, my helmet was over my eyes and I'm trying to shoot an arrow and I just miss the target completely because I don't even know where it is. And I'm like one of the only left-handers. So I'm just like, what the hell? And I can't, and my helmet's over my face. I look like a freaking child. It's so funny. I was a mess. And then Sir Ansgar was so disappointed in me. He was like, you're going to get yourself killed. I was like, I can do better, Sir Ansgar. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of things going on in this episode with, the crew having to do different things. And in fact, we even get a little bit of a play with doing different things on the ship and manipulating the ship into what it needs to be to complete the mission, much like the kids do with the USS Protostar, building that little deck with the rudders and the sail, which I love the Protostar anyway, but seeing this kind of piratey version of the Protostar was so cool. It was so much fun.
Using their ingenuity to turn it into basically a sailboat.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
So any other thoughts about, we've first of all, thank you. It's not first. We're halfway through our episode. But this is your third time on the Computer Resume podcast. Thank you so much for coming back.
My pleasure.
I'm just going to give you the title of you're our Trek ambassador. We've got a Gorn ambassador, so you can be our Trek ambassador.
I'll be your Starfleet ambassador. I'll be your ship. Yes. I'll be your ship ambassador since I'm the voice of the ship computer.
Yes, ship ambassador. Absolutely.
Yeah. Basically, I am a ship show. It's fine. I did notice in your ads throughout the episode that we're promoting the Klingon Shop.
Yes.
.com.
Yes.
So while we're on that, give me a moment while I
Yeah.
Woo. Oh dear, I didn't think this through. So for those actually watching, if you're watching or if you're just listening, whatever. But I just got this from the Klingon Shop.
Oh, nice.
My solid metal batleth. It is huge and very pointy, and I'm working on hanging it on the wall without it landing on my head and killing me.
I was going to say, be careful.
I was like, oh, I should hang this over my bed. Oh, earthquakes in California. Maybe not. It's such a good idea. But yeah, it's beautiful. If you want, like when I say they make weapons that is very screen accurate. And I mean, this is solid metal. It is so heavy. I can't even tell. Ow, see? I can't even tell you how heavy it is and how sharp it is as it just dug into my leg. But I am such a fan of Klingon Shop.
Yes.
And I've always wanted a batleth. And, you know, I've seen so many different types and different kinds and different sizes.
The lovely Klingon banner behind me is from Klingon Shop.
I also have a Klingon banner that I need to hang.
I got some of their blood wine mugs too. Those are so nice. Perfect for root beer floats.
I just wanted to give them a shout out because not only were they, you know, very kind to me and, you know, helped me out and shipped, because I was traveling when I found my batleth and bought it and was not able to fly with it for obvious reasons, considering it is a solid metal weapon. Yeah. They were kind enough to ship it to me and with great care. And so I love them I love the Klingon Shop, KlingonShop.com for all your weapon needs. Cause seriously, they have so many different kinds too. I think it, you know, how hard it was to not also buy like daggers. And I was like, I want everything.
I've considered, seeing, you know, once our deal with them is done, and I've considered seeing if they want to, if they can get me a batleth, I'll take it to my karate studio and see if we can do some of the moves with the Klingon batleth and, you know, make some video content for them. And nice. They are just wonderful, wonderful nerdy people who make the most incredible screen accurate, real heavy.
And things. I mean, you know, as for a starving actor, yes, they're, you know, it was slightly expensive, but actually they're quite affordable. When you look at the quality you're getting, I was like, I could not pass it up when I saw their booth at the convention I was at. I was like, well, oh yeah, I guess I'm buying a batleth. I've always wanted one.
Yeah, their booth was right around the corner from my table at Trek Long Island. So I struck up a conversation with them. That's kind of how we got connected. And yeah, they're just great. Wonderful, wonderful people. So yeah, KlingonShop.com. Go check them out, folks. So speaking of wonderful people, while we talk about Strange New Worlds and Star Trek Prodigy and the folks that we've encountered at conventions, you know, there's a lot of talk about the people in front of the camera, but as we do, we always celebrate folks behind the camera as well. So without further ado, we ask the question, who do we blame? This episode of Strange New Worlds was written by Henry Alonzo Myers and Akiva Goldsman and directed by Chris Fisher. The three of them, their last work on the franchise was our last episode, season 1, episode 10, A Quality of Mercy, which we discussed with Star Trek cosplay comedian Danny Rydell back on episode 128. But the guest stars, the legendary Carol Kane.
I adore her so much. She's one of my favorite, you know, Princess Bride is one of my favorite movies of all time. And I loved her in that. I loved her in Scrooge. I mean, I've loved her in everything. Her career is... She's, you know, she got her start before most all of us were even born.
Yeah, very true.
And she's just such a legend.
Yeah,
in comedy.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Which is so funny because, like, diving into her story, you end up seeing, like, comedy was kind of because of some folks she met. It wasn't, like, the main thing she was known for. By age 14, not only had she lived in 3 different countries, but she became a member of SAG, and she got her professional theater debut in The Prime of Miss Jean Brodie, starring Tammy Grimes, who has her own Trek connections, but I'll leave you all to go look that up for yourself. Her first film was Carnal Knowledge in 1971, starring Jack Nicholson and I'm forgetting some other wonderful actors. But right after that, in 75, she starred in Hester Street, and this is where she got an Oscar nomination for Best Actress.
And she was still so young too.
Yeah, yeah. The trailer. I mean, if you just go to IMDb, the trailer is right there. She looks like an absolute kid. But yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful performance. Then in 77, she starred alongside Gene Wilder in The World's Greatest Lover, which she actually credits as kind of the start of her getting a lot of comedic work.
Right, because most of their stuff before that was on the dramatic side, and I love that Gene Wilder took such a chance. You know, some of the best comedians do the best dramatic work, believe
That's
it or not,
true.
because
Yeah.
you can't have comedy without drama, and vice versa.
Look at Robin Williams' career. Like,
Robin
yes,
Williams, Jim Carrey,
yeah.
they bring the waterworks, you know, sometimes.
The Muppet Movie. She has such a small part, but it is fall down funny.
You making a move with my girl?
No, sir.
He did too. He touched me.
Ugh, go watch. You'll get warts.
No, you see, that's just a myth.
Yeah, but she's my myth.
No, myth.
Yes?
But then she also, speaking of working with legends in comedy, she did 27 episodes of Taxi, playing the love interest to Andy Kaufman's Latka.
So good.
1980 to 1983. She actually got 2 Emmys for her work on Taxi, also starring Star Trek alum Christopher Lloyd. And then, of course, you know, some legendary comedy films, Princess Bride, Scrooged, Addams Family Values, and then some more TV stuff, you know, 10 episodes of Gotham and 51 episodes of Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. I absolutely adore her on Kimmy Schmidt.
Yeah, she's
Love
so
that.
funny. I love that, you know, putting her in the Star Trek franchise, they gave her a character that she can just play with. You know, like her character is so whimsical.
Yes.
She's just a legend when it comes to characters, and
Yes.
not just comedic characters, but she's so great at creating characters with a sense of whimsy to them, but also that has a lot of layers of emotional depth. So I can't wait to see where they go with her character. I want more of her.
Oh, very much.
Especially
Yeah.
since she's lived for so long. I feel like there's so much they can explore with her, you know, getting into trouble and
Yeah, and I hope it even extends beyond the TV series. I hope we get to see her in the comics, and maybe somebody out there will do a Pelia novel. But yeah, so anyways, this is her first appearance in the franchise, this episode, The Broken Circle. But yeah, definitely not the last. So we get plenty more fun with Carol Kane. So as we do every episode, we ask, is this essential viewing? If somebody is sitting down and watching Star Trek for the very first time and they come to this episode, Bonnie Gordon, do you think this is essential viewing, or is this one that they can skip?
I think all of Star Trek is essential. You can find something, even in the worst of episodes, you can find something relatable and wonderful. So this is definitely the wrong question to ask me. I mean, when it comes to plot wise, I feel like it is pretty important because you get to know so many different character backgrounds, like seeing, you know, the Doctor and Nurse Chapel, seeing what they went through during the war and having them have to kind of work through that and come to terms. And it was, you know, it shows today, like what, you know, when we see veterans having kind of like PTSD and different battling different things like that, it really shows, it kind of puts a perspective on, look at what they had to go through and look at what they have to almost suppress on a day-to-day basis. And then now they're basically back in a war zone and they have to, like, you know, they thought they put those days behind them and now they have to fight their way to survive. And I do love, correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is the episode. Yeah, they have to basically launch themselves into space and just hope the Enterprise finds them. And one of the most beautiful moments in this is Spock's reaction to saving Nurse Chapel. And you can see him really fighting his instincts to keep his emotions at bay, because for the first time he's feeling love and, you know, true affection for someone, and he thinks that he's lost them. So him I mean, that's all Ethan Peck. He's such a good actor.
Yeah.
And I love his interpretation of Spock because now we know why Spock is so big about keeping his emotions at bay because we're seeing some of them leak out and he thinks they're basically causing him to a distraction. Basically, he's not able to function in at his best capacity with his feelings for Nurse Chapel.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I've said before, with it being episodic, could you skip it? Yes. Why would you? But if you're following a certain character track, you just mentioned Nurse Chapel, Dr. Mbenga, especially what we know Mbenga down the road, we know a little bit more. But yeah, Nurse Chapel especially, and Spock with his emotions and the introduction of him playing music as an element of him bringing himself back down to zero and all that stuff. These these are very important beats for these characters. So yeah, if you're on a Spock track, an Mbenga track, a Chapel track, Lon, we get to see her kind of following through with her self-given mission of returning and setting things right. And of course we see by the end we've not heard the last from the Gorn. So Bonnie, thank you so much for carving out the time. I know you're super
My pleasure.
busy. This has been so much fun
Absolutely.
chatting with you again.
Yeah.
And we will chat with you anytime, even if it's just D&D or music or Star Trek.
Wait till you get to the music episode. That's what you should have saved me for.
I know.
And then we could have sung the whole podcast.
Do you want to call dibs and come back for Subspace Rhapsody?
I might.
I'll pencil you in for now.
Yeah. Okay.
But do you have any parting thoughts about this episode, Strange New Worlds as a whole, and the future of Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Prodigy, your appearance on this podcast? Any parting thoughts before we go?
Well, I do. Strange New Worlds is one of my favorite new Trek shows of all time. And honestly, one of my favorite Trek shows now. I feel like they're doing such a good job. My only complaint is that there's not more of it. Like I want more. Like the seasons are too short. But while you're waiting for more, you can always check out Star Trek Prodigy. Now, both seasons are up on Netflix right now.
Yes.
And season 1, they're 20 episodes each, but they're only 22 minutes long. So you can binge quite a few of them in one sitting. And season 1, a lot of people didn't give the show a chance because, they keep saying, oh, it's a kid's show. I always say I say, get through like the first 10 episodes of season 1 and then reassess, because once you get past a certain point, you're going to get hooked, and it becomes basically some of the best storytelling of sci-fi, not just Trek, but just in general storytelling. In season 2, when I say they knock it out of the park, I mean, again, the reviews are saying it's one of the best seasons of Star Trek ever made. And I agree with them, not because I'm on the show, but because Star Trek is such an important part of my life. And, recording season 2, I didn't get full scripts and whatnot. So I knew what was happening in the season, but I hadn't seen any of it yet, like finished. And so I was watching it when it came out on Netflix with fans, I was watching it in real time with you all. And I was blown away with what they did. So don't just shove it aside because you could think it's a kid show. Get through the first 5-6 episodes and then get to the Kobayashi Maru episode, season 1, and then let me know what you think. Yeah. And then, speaking of being on a Spock track and if you're a fan of any Trek characters, you should watch that episode in particular because there's so many amazing cameos.
We've had the discussion on this show about the age-old Star Trek versus Star Wars, which we don't begrudge anybody their fandom. So and I'm a fan of both. So I'm
a fan of both too. You don't have to make this Sophie's choice. Honestly, I feel like so many people put so much pressure on picking one. They're two completely different franchises. There's really nothing that's similar to them. One's like a space fantasy Western, and one is like strictly sci-fi and also trying to pave the path of what our future could be as a society. Star Wars is not, I mean, it is though, technically, when you think about dictatorship and all that, it could very well be our future. Let's not go there. But you know what I mean? You know what I mean when I say, I feel like Star Trek has really inspired science in our society. I mean,
very much.
Go back to the original series and then look how what technology we have that matches what they had. Look at Next Generation, them carrying the pads around, and now look at all the iPads people have. Like, it's amazing how the science of, they're trying to build food out of other types of things. Basically we're trying to create replicators in a sense. We're trying to build our own meat instead of killing animals. Now we're going to have synthesized meat, which is very Star Trek. So I feel like there's so much that Star Trek inspires when it comes to future goals, and then also of, diplomacy and working together with different types of everyone's coming from different walks of life, different religions, different species, and coming together to create peace and discover new discoveries and I feel like that should be our goal for society.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
Star Wars, I mean, it's in the name. It's mostly about wars, and which, again, I love Star Wars too, but I also I get tired of like, for me, we see enough of that in our day-to-day life. I want, everyone's like, oh, but Star Trek's all boring peace talk. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want right now. I just want peace. And, discovering new alien life. And, one of the, in the episode in the original series where they discover that creature in the caves. That's attacking miners. And, they're all thinking it's some kind of monster. And it's really just a mother protecting her eggs or her children.
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of thing I love about Star Trek, because it's like, if we all just communicate and try and see, you looking at someone and think they're a monster because they're doing this. If you just talk to them and understand why they're doing that, you're like, oh, I get it. But now let's find common ground. Now let's find a way to fix this. And I feel like that's what the world needs more of.
Yeah.
That was a long explanation for
that's
saying
fine.
that you can like both.
Exactly. I came up with the general thesis idea of Star Wars is very coming of age, learning who you are, breaking away from your parents, seeking out what is over the rainbow, your destiny. Star Trek kind of assumes you've done that already. And now it's kind of like, okay, this is how you interact with other people and learn about other cultures. And
depends on the Star Trek, though.
Depending on the Star Trek, because Prodigy is the outlier, where we've got these kids who I feel like this is the bridge between the two franchises, because you've got these kids who are coming of age, but they are also learning about Starfleet. So this is the
Have you
franchise
seen season
reaching
2
out.
yet? Have you seen season 2? Oh, yeah.
I have.
So
Yeah. I absolutely adore it. Like learning your place in the world. Like I'm already mentioned Luke Skywalker. He's already, he's looking at the twin sunset, wondering what's beyond the rainbow and longing for that. And the kids are going through that a little bit too, of like finding themselves in Starfleet, but hey, we've got this new mission and I don't want to give anything away. So
I love the character arc they gave Zero.
Yes.
That was so special of Zero, of them, wanting to feel, being Medusan and non-corporeal and not having the ability to actually feel, like physically feel and experience senses. I just love the journey that they gave them. Anyway, no spoilers, but all of them get amazing, character arcs. They all grow, they all learn. But I mean, looking at Strange New Worlds, you're seeing, it's characters we already are familiar with, like Uhura, Spock, Nurse Chapel. These are characters that we all know and love already from the original series. Now you get to see, you saw them already being who they are. Now you get to see them coming into their own and becoming those characters that we know and love. Like watching their journey of, this is how we know them, and this is where they are now, and we're watching them meet to their greatest potential of where they started in the original series. So I truly love Strange New Worlds. Discovery is also, I mean, I could go on and on about all the series, really. About, yes, I see where your point is of like coming of age, but you can say that about any of the Discovery or any of the Star Trek franchises.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
Characters that they discover who they are, while Starfleet is like a tool that helps them discover their potential in a way.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, looking at, since you mentioned Discovery, of course, just ended, and the end of season 5 is an absolute masterpiece. It's wonderful. But looking at the journey of Michael Burnham, like, whoa, what a journey.
Right?
In such a short amount of time.
Went from
in
no
terms of
emotions.
episodes.
Went from no emotions to full emotional spectrum. Like her character grew so much.
Yeah.
They all did.
Yeah, truly. Well, folks, next time we will have a very special secret guest for Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 2, Ad Astra Per Aspera, which is available exclusively on Paramount Plus. Bonnie, where can people find you, see you, experience the things that you're a part of on the internet and the streamings?
I'm very Googleable. Just search my name. You can find me at Bonnie Bell G on Instagram, Twitter, or X, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn. I don't know. Just search anywhere. You'll find me. You can find my music on Spotify, iTunes, Bandcamp. Search Library Bards. It's like library cards, but with a B. For the comedy parody stuff, search Bonnie Gordon for my solo album, Con Artist. Yeah, I'm very easy to find if you search my name. If you can't find me, then something is wrong.
And I'm at Mr. Todd A. Davis on all of the socials. From all of us at the Computer Resume podcast, thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you in 10 Forward.
Live logs and proper.
Support us on Patreon and like, rate, review, and share on all your favorite platforms. Feel free to send us your subspace transmissions to computerresumepodcast@gmail.com or at Computer Resume on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Computer Resume podcast was created and produced by Mr. Todd A. Davis. Our logo was designed by Will Martin and Justin Bishop. The opening theme was produced by Justin Bishop, and our outro music was provided with permission by Dronode. Additional music was provided by Mr. Todd A. Davis and Gary Horn, and the voice of Computer Resume podcast and executive producer, me, Kat Davis. # LLAP. We'll see you next time.
Going through a Star Trek. We're doing Star Trek stuff in space. We probably got some phasers and shuttle pods, and we're gonna find a brand new race.
The further adventures of Pelia. Like, she would be so great.
Sorry.
Bless you.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?